Over the last few years, I have grown to admire the ranching community and all that it is doing to preserve the precious prairie habitat. Early on in my relationship with this community, I learned that non-native cool season invasive species, namely Kentucky bluegrass, crested wheatgrass, and smooth brome grass, are invading the prairie landscape. These invasive grasses reduce diversity and rob the land of its resilience. In short, they are diminishing the land's ability to support the plant, animal, and human communities that make the prairie their home. When I was invited by my friends in the USDA NRCS to visit with ranchers Candice Mizera and Justin Thompson, I saw firsthand how these ranchers have had to find ways to address this threat. This story is about adaptive stewardship in real time. Our story starts with Candice talking to the USDA NRCS's rangeland management specialist, Ryan Beer.
We had basically 4 big pastures and that we rotated through, but it was always kind of the same sequence, and we're getting a lot of overgrazing in spots and a lot of curly cup gumweed, and it just seemed like I go to a few other ranches that were better managed, just different grasses, and I got a little jealous that maybe we need to do more management to have better rangeland, and then started kind of researching that and visiting with NRCS, and figured we needed to contain the cows more and control their movements, have better timing as far as when they're rotated and where, and how many cows to have a better impact. So we did an equip contract where we got a lot of cross fencing cost share and waterline cost share, and that was really the big catapult.
Most of your pastures are now basically quarters, maybe 200 acre size pastures?
Yep. I think the smallest out west is 120 acres and the biggest is like 240 versus 1,000. It's made a big difference. We're double the summer carrying capacity now on this place. So yeah, it's a good feeling, and I don't remember how many years ago we started. It had to been 7, 8, 10. Putting in fence lines and water lines, probably.
In 1998, Justin started out on a ranch near Bullhead, South Dakota.
It was really sandy soil, so it's kind of easy to say, this is an area, if it gets overgrazed, if it gets overused, that soil's just flat going to be gone. So taking half and leaving half, or stockpiling grass, changing use, what I have seen the very best work over there was to fence out those old fields that now they're just crested. And we use that in May, and I don't touch the native until June. That, I really believe, has worked over there. In one hillside, I can see sand blue stem at the top, big blue stem in the middle, and little blue stem on the bottom, or vice versa. In one hill, I'll see that diversity. So it's exciting, because I saw what that place looked like before we started adding cross fences, water.
At face value, this sounds like 2 more success stories of ranchers who are doing things the right way. So, play inspirational music, roll credits, the end, right? Well, not so fast. While working on this project, I was reminded of what rancher Bart Carmichael said a couple of years back.
How long have I done this system? I hate that question. The reason I do is because, and Ryan, it changes. Yeah, we've never, it's always, I called it an adaptive system before we even heard of adaptive grazing, but we're always changing. We've tried different things and, tried to go over things twice, tried to go longer rest periods, and we're fine tuning all the time. And then the weather changes. Every time you think you learn something, nature throws something at you and you learn something new.
My take home from Bart: what works now may not work later. By extension, we can also say what works here might not work there. Use a formula and eventually you'll encounter trouble. So keep Bart's words in mind as we follow Candice and Justin in their respective journeys. We take up again with Candice as she talks to NRCS Rangeland Management Specialist Ryan Beer.
The very north part of the pastures here, there was a couple of years you didn't use that at all,
Yeah.
my understanding. And so you got a lot of Kentucky bluegrass coming in there. Tell us maybe why you weren't using those early or at all?
Yep. Well, we used to get the cows up there for pretty early, but it seemed like we kept sharing the fence line with our neighbors, and we were having bulls crossing the fence and neighbors' bulls getting in with ours. So we decided, well, that didn't work too good. So we decided not to. We didn't use those pastures till later in the fall, and the Kentucky just steadily took over.
In 2008, Justin moved from his ranch in Bullhead to one closer to Mobridge, South Dakota. Logic would say that what worked in Bullhead should work fine in Mobridge, right?
Talking about that other ranch, that ranch is only about 25 miles away from here, and it's completely different water source, completely different mineral problems, completely different soil. That same plan is not working here.
What Justin experienced was that context matters. When Justin talks about here, it's the ranch he lives on now near Mobridge.
Here, it's gumbo, it's clay, not a lot of water. When we moved to this place, that would have been in 08 is when we first started here. Hard to break it down into percentages, but I bet 80% of this was really well-established western wheat and green needle grass. There were pastures along roads, places where old hay had been rolled out and where the brome grass had started to invade and was taking a pretty good hold. So we fenced those acres out and used them just for May. I made sure that the western wasn't grazed until I seen the second 2.5 leaf stage, and had the production of those acres at least over 2,200 pounds before we would turn into those. And if the brome was still vegetative, I actually would even stay longer, to the point of where sometime I did not even go on to native grass until maybe the 15th of June. Then when I did, I would pick a different pasture to start in. I did a once over, change of season of use, one rotation over. And so I kind of thought that if I did the same things the same way, I'd have the same result. And even as far as 2014, I still felt like the diversity, the western wheat and green needle in particular, grass was producing well and it looked healthy, and that everything was trending the way that it should have been. But at least in recent times, the brome grass, smooth brome, and the Kentucky bluegrass and the crested has all increased and has taken over a lot of acres and cutting down on the desired species that I want. So I feel like I'm getting the opposite results to what something I intentionally tried to avoid.
Not much to say to this except Mother Nature has thrown another curveball.
Well, this is why you probably don't allow yourself to be videoed. This is why you probably don't ever pound your fist on the table and say, this is the way that things are. I thought in my mind, if I add all the good practices and don't change my cow number, the land's just gonna be that much better off. It felt like I was so tunnel visioned into, I know the best thing for this, so therefore this will be right. It's almost like you're drawing the bullseye around your dart, because it feels like I was able to shrug off trends that were there that were kind of bad. I'm really disappointed in the last 2 years, especially. I guess maybe I wanted the same feeling I have at the other place, where I feel like I've accomplished something, I've added something that wasn't there, I've done it better, and now it's actually more profitable than what it was before.
You have to admire Justin's self-awareness and intellectual humility. There's a quote by James Joyce that says, "Mistakes are the portals to discovery." We'll see that later when we meet with Justin again. But first, what does an infestation of Kentucky bluegrass look like?
Kentucky roots make like a mat on top of the surface that actually will help shed water off. I think there was like 2 or 3 inches of litter.
We kept seeing where the Kentucky bluegrass that was green at the time, and some of the older duff layer that the Kentucky had formed over the years. The pastures were getting droughted out even though there was rain, and Ryan Setter, we came to find out that the Kentucky bluegrass has got that waxy stem that kind of sheds water, and once it makes that duff layer, it repels water. So we need to infiltrate and hold on to as much water as we could. Whatever fell, we need to capture.
Wow, that's a lot of bad news. So what's the good news?
This would show an alleyway after the cattle are weaned. They travel to the corral to see if the calf is there, travel back to the gate right here where they came in at, wondering if their calf is out here. It's just an area of circumstance. But what happened was their hoof action and their travel seems to have created the best opportunity for western wheatgrass. Right across the fence, it's never grazed because it's a hay corral. And you can see what is growing there from not getting grazed and from not getting disturbed. That's even cheatgrass, which I didn't even know.
And that's crazy over there.
And then this would be
That's the Kentucky. Yeah.
and then here we're still green,
Yeah.
vegetative western. That trap, there's no place pounded down worse by hoof action on the entire ranch than probably that alley between the dates of October 24th and November 6th, let's say somewhere in there, maybe 3 or 4 years in a row. And then you look at the hay corral right next to it that never gets disturbed. You still would think without man overgrazing, that should still be western. But it wasn't. It was crested, it was Kentucky bluegrass and brome, and in the hay corral where nothing is happening, where nothing's being done to it. If it was over there at the other ranch over west, and I did the exact same thing, it would be full of mare's tail and crested wheatgrass. And then when the power company, I was the first project on the spring list, they plowed that land through. That's where I finally noticed, what in the world is this saying? Or what happened? And all they did was tear up the sod. And now all of a sudden, that western looks great.
These observations that Justin made were the pattern for his future planning on his Mowbridge Ranch. What plan did Candice and Ryan come up with to address the cool season invasives on that north pasture of Candice's?
So it'd been early April through May. We calved about 600 cows up there and we rotated through 4 quarters calving. And actually the one pasture you came and looked at and said we should go back and hit harder.
I think there was like 2 or 3 inches of litter.
Yeah.
And it was kind of neat because when you drove by, it looked like the field was actually sprayed out because it was completely brown. The cows had ate all the green out of it, but they hadn't ate that older litter. And that's when I suggested that we needed to take it down more and then get out, leave it, rest.
Yep, so to hit it harder, we were actually trampling more into the ground and forcing the cows to eat closer to the ground what was there. The Kentucky bluegrass that was green at the time, and some of the older duff layer that the Kentucky had formed over the years.
I think we had really good response because there was a lot of western wheatgrass. That was maybe more so in the second year we started to see that. But the big blue stem and the side oats and Maximilian sunflower and the green needle, they came in really good the first year. There was really good fence line contrast from the pastures that we did this on to the ones right next that we didn't. And,
there's just more diversity. Before it was kind of a sea of all Kentucky and crested, and now it's a lot of different colors and heights and shades, and it's a lot. Yeah.
It seems like in both these cases, more disruption through grazing impact was able to cause enough insult to the Kentucky to allow many of the native species to re-express themselves. I wonder if either Candice or Justin were initially comfortable with how much disturbance they'd actually need to use. What are Candice and Justin's respective plans to increase hoof action or herd impact for the future?
We invested in permanent cross fencing to begin with, just because I couldn't see building that much electric fence and it working out there and being reliable enough to actually accomplish what we needed to, and having the labor to do it. We just need to just build a fence and be able to control the cows. What I would do different, or what I think we should do in addition to, is I think we should cross fence a lot of the pastures now with electric fence and kind of rotate where they're cut them in half or thirds, and move that every year in different timing, just to get, because right now most of the time they're in each pasture for give or take a week, 5 to 8 days, and they're still selective enough where I think we'd have to have 800 or 900 cows in there doing the same thing for a shorter time. Yep. Yeah, I think so. In order to get our density up, I think we need to make our pasture smaller rather than bring in more cows.
Justin also plans to reduce paddock size, and while he doesn't want to bring in more cows, he has a plan to, at least temporarily, increase stocking densities.
The cheapest, quickest way is one wire high tensile permanent electric. So we're gonna put in fiberglass posts and one wire and basically watch the contour lines and connect as much water to as many pastures as possible. We're down to about a section in each pasture now. For sure, everything's gonna get split in half this year, for sure, because that's the way the water will work. And I was thinking about splitting them twice. For this coming spring, for sure they'll be in half of what they are now. So it'd be around 320 in a pasture. And I don't know how far to take that. The problem with just saying I'm gonna get more cows is where they're gonna winter. And I had already shifted our ranch towards minimal input, make the cows work, 12-month grazing season. Now we haven't achieved 12 months every year. Sometimes I get snowed over, and I can't say I've hit all those goals at all, but I feel like I've gone so far that way, just simply adding cow numbers because you want to start spring grazing. Well, those cows still have to get wintered, so what's that cost gonna be? So where do we go with that? Yearlings are the easier answer. I would like to keep our calves over and run them as yearlings, and then use them only as a grass tool and try to ignore markets. So try to condense them on and create some hoof action and use them as kind of my experiment type deal, knowing that I will sell them, move them, whatever, soon as it looks like I'm doing the opposite of good. I'm just gonna get rid of them because it's easy to do that. They have a sale every week. And so that's where we're at with that. Who knows, by next year, maybe I'll have a different opinion.
If you're looking for a neat ending to the story, I'm sorry if I can't give you one. Candice and Justin's efforts have met with some success, to be sure, but they will continue to face new challenges like all of us. The point of this video was not for you to copy what they were doing, but to follow how they were able to think adaptively. The story of cool season invasive grasses in the prairie continues, and I am grateful that awareness of this threat to rangeland increases. The best way to meet this challenge is through education. If you haven't yet, study up on Savory's 4 ecosystem processes. Learn the 6 principles of soil health and get to know your 3 rules of adaptive stewardship. If you are in South Dakota or a neighboring state, by far the best investment in your education you can make is to go to a grazing school or a soil health school. It will change your life. Thank you for watching this video, and I wish you well in your adventure.